You've probably never heard about this massive story that's rocking the United Kingdom right now. Over 150,000 people just marched through London, and 26 police officers were injured in violent clashes. This isn't just another protest. This is something that could change everything. But let me take you back to where it all started, because what you're about to learn will completely change how you see what's happening in Britain today. It all began on July 13th, 2025, in a quiet town called Epping. An Ethiopian asylum seeker had just arrived in the UK 8 days earlier and was staying at a local hotel when he was arrested for 3 separate sexual assaults. The local community was furious, and protests erupted immediately. But this wasn't an isolated incident. What followed was a wave of demonstrations that spread like wildfire across the entire country. From Bristol to Manchester, from Newcastle to cities you've probably never even heard of. At least 40 police officers have been injured, and over 140 people have been arrested. The biggest shock came on September 13th, when up to 150,000 people took part in what they called the Unite the Kingdom March. 26 more police officers were hurt that day. This wasn't just a local community upset anymore. This had become a national movement. Here's what the government doesn't want you to know. They're spending billions of your tax money housing asylum seekers in hotels across the country. At the peak, 51,000 asylum seekers were living in more than 400 hotels, costing £8 million every single day. Think about that for a moment. £8 million every day. That's money that could be going to schools, hospitals, or helping British families struggling with the cost of living. These aren't just any hotels either. Many have completely stopped operating as normal hotels. Weddings have been canceled at short notice. Paying guests are turned away. These buildings now function as what are essentially refugee camps, housing hundreds of people on long-term contracts with the government. The living conditions? Reports describe overcrowded rooms, poor security, and facilities lacking basic things like cooking areas and outdoor space for children. Meanwhile, asylum seekers receive just £49.18 per week to cover all their living costs, and they're not allowed to work while their claims are processed. To understand what's happening now, you need to know about what happened in 2024. It was the UK's worst riots in years, and it all started with a horrific attack on children. On July 29th, 2024, a 17-year-old attacked a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in Southport. 3 little girls, aged just 6, 7, and 9, were killed, and 10 others were injured. But here's where it gets really disturbing. Within hours of the attack, completely false information started spreading online. Social media accounts claimed the attacker was a Muslim asylum seeker who had arrived by boat. None of this was true. The attacker was actually born in Wales to Rwandan parents. The misinformation spread so fast that by the next day, it had been mentioned over 30,000 times by more than 10,000 accounts on social media. Far-right groups seized on this tragedy to push their anti-immigration message, even though it was all based on lies. The result? Over 1,800 people were arrested, and more than 300 police officers were injured in riots across the country. Mosques were attacked. Asian, Black, and Muslim people were targeted. Libraries and community buildings were damaged. The 2025 protests didn't happen by accident. They were organized and amplified by established far-right groups, including Britain First, the Homeland Party, and Patriotic Alternative. These groups have been accused of spreading misinformation online to inflame tensions and recruit new supporters. Here's something that will surprise you. The Epping Says No Facebook group that organized the first protests, 3 of its 4 administrators were members of the Homeland Party, which is described as a splinter group from a neo-Nazi organization. Social media played a massive role in coordinating these protests. They used Facebook groups with names like X Community Says No to Y Local Hotel, plus WhatsApp and Telegram to organize. Telegram has been identified as a safe space for extremists to coordinate activity and instigate violence. Perhaps the most shocking development was when tech billionaire Elon Musk appeared via video link at the September rally. He told the crowd that the UK needed a change of government and called for Parliament to be dissolved. Since Musk took over Twitter, now called X, he reinstated previously banned accounts including Tommy Robinson, who had been removed for hate speech. During the 2024 riots, Musk posted 46 times, generating 808 million impressions, including a tweet claiming, "Civil war is inevitable." In the UK, Robinson's post received over 580 million views in just 2 weeks following the Southport attack, an unprecedented reach for someone who had been banned from the platform. The numbers are staggering. In the financial year 2024 to 2025, hotels cost on average 6 times more than other types of asylum accommodation. The average daily cost of housing an asylum seeker in a hotel was £170 per person, compared to just £27 for other accommodation. The government has spent over £2 billion on hotel accommodation for asylum seekers in the past year alone. That's money taken directly from the foreign aid budget, pushing UK foreign aid to its lowest level in 50 years. But the human cost is even higher. Local communities feel powerless when hotels in their areas are suddenly converted to house asylum seekers, often without any advance warning. The concentration of large numbers of asylum seekers in former hotels has created tensions and what experts describe as damaging community powerlessness. The September 13th march in London marked a significant escalation, with 150,000 people attending and tech billionaire Elon Musk calling for government change. This movement has gained international attention and support. Political parties are taking notice. Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage, has called for mass deportations of up to 600,000 asylum seekers. Some Conservative MPs have also expressed support for local concerns about asylum hotels. The Labour government finds itself caught in the middle, trying to balance legal obligations to house asylum seekers with growing public anger about the costs and community impact. They've promised to end the use of hotels by 2029, but with asylum applications at record levels, over 111,000 in the year to June 2025, that target looks increasingly difficult to achieve. The protests and counter-protests continue across the UK, with Stand Up to Racism organizing opposition demonstrations wherever anti-immigration groups gather. Police forces are stretched thin, trying to keep opposing groups separated and prevent violence. What started as a local protest in Epping has evolved into a national movement that's challenging the government's entire approach to immigration and asylum policy. The use of hotels to house asylum seekers, initially introduced as a temporary measure during the COVID-19 pandemic, has become a permanent feature of the system and a permanent source of controversy. With social media continuing to amplify both accurate information and misinformation, with far-right groups becoming increasingly organized, and with public frustration at record levels, the situation in the UK remains volatile. The events of 2025 may be remembered as a turning point in British politics and society, when long-simmering tensions over immigration finally boiled over into sustained, nationwide protest and unrest. The question now is whether the government can find a solution that addresses legitimate community concerns while maintaining its legal obligations to provide sanctuary for those seeking asylum. With tensions running high and political divisions deepening, that solution remains elusive.